Well, I'm here with Pastor and CEO of Wayside Chapel, Graham Long. Graham, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
It's a pleasure.
Firstly, the origin of the Wayside Chapel go back to the 60s when it was a place for the avant-garde radicals of the day, which is a terminology that I've got straight from your website. Things seem to have changed a little since then. What's the main objective of the Wayside Chapel today?
Well, the objective's similar to the beginning. I mean, the world has changed since 1964. Ted came here in 1964 and the world was quite a different place to what it is now. And King's Cross has gone through quite a few changes. But the aim of Wayside has always been similar, and that is it aims to be something that makes community happen. Now, in Ted's day, there are a lot of poor-ish young people who, the 60s were going to bring in the revolution, and they found themselves living without a voice, pretty much. And Ted brought them into the chapel to kind of give them a voice and to say to the rest of the community, this is the world, this is your neighbourhood, you need to take these people seriously. That's kind of still what we do. We still are a voice that says to the housed, homeless people are not a different race of people.
Yep.
They're just people. They're just like people who are housed, except they don't have roofs. It's almost like saying this is your brother and this is your sister. Now let's talk about homelessness.
Yeah.
Same with addiction, same with mental illness. This country does a lot of things extremely well, but mental illness is not one of them.
Yeah.
And so Wayside becomes a place of welcome for the mentally ill, and it also becomes a place where the mentally ill find a voice. And it's a place that speaks on behalf of the mentally ill and says to the rest of the community, look, here's your brother and sister.
There's been a significant amount of media coverage of late about the new homeless. People who are living with their families in cramped hotel rooms for long periods of time paid by the government. It appears to me that the people you're dealing with are beyond that point. They've, I guess, fallen through the cracks, so to speak. How did these people get to that point?
Well, you're right. The financial crisis. People ask me all the time, how are the poor doing now that the financially, we're in a crisis? And the answer is the poor didn't ever know that we had good times. There's absolutely no fact. If you want to see where the pain is coming from the financial crisis, you need to go to the suburbs and see people living 2 and 3 families in the one home, and multiple peoples in smallish bedrooms and families in garages, that sort of thing. The people that we see here are really, I hesitate to use a term like this, but you'll know what I mean, are really the bottom of the rung.
Yep.
They're people who often slip through all the safety nets.
Yep.
So, how do you get there is surprisingly easy. If you get a mental illness, now a lot of mental illnesses come gradually, but some do not. You can be doing quite well and you get hit by a bus, a mental illness bus, essentially.
Yep.
It's just whack, Now, if you don't have family supports and you don't have money, the drop to the street is a remarkably small drop. So you can be housed and doing well and, have a family and be going to scouts and the ice skating and everything that goes with that. And within months, find yourself living on the street. It's pretty easily done. We had a family show up here with 5 children living in a car. It's not exactly ideal.
No.
But the point was that some months earlier, that family were paying off a house, they were running their own business, and looked just like every other family in the world. Something happened. The father of the family's father died, and I don't even begin to understand this, but it set off in that man a spiral downwards. Within months, he was unable to work, and they lost their business. And not long after that, they lost their home. And to cut a very long story short, and there are other things, he had a heart attack and all sorts of things, but to cut the long story short, we ended up with a woman and 5 kids living in a car. It didn't take long. So the drop into the street is a remarkably shallow drop. I think that would surprise most people to see that, but that's pretty right.
And I guess, it's probably a very complex thing, but is that a failure of government to be able to prevent that from happening, or is it far more complex than that?
Oh, look, everybody wants to say it's a failure of government, but look, this is not very profound, but I'm a bit inclined to say shit happens. Who can predict that man was going to have a breakdown? Homelessness comes because of domestic violence. Some bloke beats up his wife. Eventually the wife thinks, hang on, this is not just me copying this, but my children are in danger. I need to get out of here to protect the lives of my children. That's very real. And so this woman hightails it out and becomes homeless to protect her children. How can governments anticipate that? I don't know.